Every 66 seconds, someone in the United States develops Alzheimer's disease. Not is diagnosed. Develops. Right now, as you are watching this, the brain of another American has crossed the clinical threshold into dementia, whether they are sitting at dinner with their family, whether they are driving to the grocery store, whether they are laughing at something on television completely unaware that anything is wrong. That is 1,400 people today alone. Over 500,000 this year. And here is what makes it even worse. The damage does not begin at diagnosis. It begins years, sometimes decades earlier. Silently. Without pain. Without dramatic symptoms. Without a single moment that announces itself as dangerous. By the time a neurologist confirms dementia on a brain scan, the disease has typically been progressing, unchecked, for 8 to 12 years. 8 to 12 years during which the brain was sending clear, measurable, documentable warning signals and almost nobody was listening. Most seniors do not recognize what is happening until it is far too late to alter the outcome. They notice a name retrieved incorrectly, a daughter called by a sister's name, and they think, I am just tired. I have too much on my mind. It happens to everyone, they sit down. They move on. They never mention it to a doctor. And the window that could have changed everything quietly closes behind them. But here is the hopeful side. Recent research published in the journal Lancet Neurology confirms that up to 40% of dementia cases are potentially preventable or significantly delayable if the earliest warning signs are identified and acted upon in time. 40%. That is not a marginal finding. That is nearly half of all projected cases. And the single most powerful factor separating the people who caught it early from the people who did not was this: they knew exactly which sign to look for. Not a list of 10 vague symptoms. One specific, misunderstood, routinely dismissed signal that the brain produces years before any formal diagnosis is possible. If you are over 60 and watching this right now, do not tune out. My name is Dr. Derek Greenhaw. I am a board-certified neurologist with 27 years of clinical experience in cognitive decline and early-stage dementia. And what I am about to show you in this video is the single worst early warning sign of dementia that seniors dismiss every single day, including, I promise you, people who are sharp, self-aware, and absolutely convinced it could never happen to them. It happened to Margaret. 68 years old. Retired schoolteacher. Sharp as anyone I have ever met. She laughed it off too. Stay with me. Before we go any further, I want to tell you exactly who I am and why I am the right person to be having this conversation with you today. Because here is the truth. The internet is full of people talking about dementia. Most of them have never sat with a patient who didn't recognize their own child. I have. More times than I want to count. I am Dr. Derek Greenhaw. Board-certified neurologist. I completed my residency at Johns Hopkins, followed by a fellowship in cognitive neurology with a specific focus on early-stage Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia. I have spent over 27 years in clinical practice, not behind a desk, not publishing papers in a vacuum, but in the room. With real patients. Real families. Real consequences. In those 27 years, I have reviewed thousands of cognitive assessments. I have studied brain scans that showed the early stages of neurological deterioration while the patient sitting beside me was still cracking jokes and insisting they were perfectly fine. That gap between what I could see on the image and what the patient believed about themselves is what drives everything I do. I started this channel for one reason. The medical system is designed to catch dementia late. By the time a formal diagnosis is made, the brain has often already sustained significant, irreversible damage. What nobody tells seniors, and what I am determined to change, is that the brain gives you warning signals years before a diagnosis. Years. And most people dismiss every single one of them. That is not their fault. They were never taught what to look for. But ignorance at this stage is not neutral. It has consequences. And I have watched those consequences play out in far too many families who came to me and said, why didn't anyone tell us sooner? So let me tell you now. That is not their fault. They were never taught what to look for. But ignorance at this stage is not neutral. It has consequences. And I have watched those consequences play out in far too many families who came to me and said, why didn't anyone tell us sooner? So let me tell you now. I also want to say this directly. I am not here to frighten you into paralysis. Fear alone helps no one. What I am here to do is give you the specific, medically accurate information that allows you to take action while action still makes a meaningful difference. That is the only reason I am sitting in front of this camera. Before we go further, if you are watching this and you are over the age of 55, or you have a parent or spouse over 55, I want you to type the number 1 in the comments right now. Not for me. For yourself. As a signal that you are paying attention to something that genuinely matters. Because what I am about to explain in the next section is something that is happening inside the brain of millions of seniors at this very moment, and almost none of them know it. The physiology of what is actually occurring is both more alarming and more hopeful than most people realize. Stay with me. Before I show you the sign itself, I need to pause for just a moment. Because I want to make sure the right people are still in this room with me. If you have been watching this channel for any length of time, you know I do not waste your time. Every video I put out is built on 27 years of clinical experience and peer-reviewed science. I do not speculate. I do not sensationalize. I tell you what I know, what the research confirms, and what I have seen with my own eyes in practice. And what I am about to share in this video, the specific sign we are covering today, is something I genuinely believe every person over the age of 55 needs to hear. Not tomorrow. Today. So here is what I want you to do right now. If you are watching this and you are 55 or older, type the word brain in the comments below. Just that one word. Brain. If you are watching this because you are concerned about a parent, a spouse, a sibling, or a close friend, type family in the comments. And if you have already noticed something in yourself or someone you love that brought you to this video today, something you could not quite name, something that felt a little off, type I see it in the comments. Because you are probably not imagining it. And you deserve to know the truth about what it means. I read these comments. My team and I go through them every single week. And I want to tell you something that I mean with complete sincerity. This community, the people who show up to these videos and take this seriously, is one of the most engaged, most courageous groups of people I have ever had the privilege of speaking to. I say courageous because it takes real courage to face a topic like this. It is far easier to scroll past. To tell yourself it does not apply to you. To wait. But you are not waiting. You are here. And that decision, that single choice to stay informed, is already putting you ahead of the vast majority of people your age who will not learn what I am about to tell you until it is far too late to act on it. So do me one more favor. And I am sharing it here, for free, because I believe you deserve access to information that your doctor may not have time to sit down and explain. You belong in this conversation. Now, let us get into what you actually came here to learn. Because the sign I am about to describe to you is not what most people expect. It is not dramatic. It does not look like the dementia you have seen in movies. It looks ordinary. It looks dismissible. And that is exactly what makes it so dangerous. Here is what is actually happening inside your brain right now. And I mean right now, as you are watching this. After the age of 60, the human brain begins a process that most people are completely unaware of. Not a dramatic collapse. Not a sudden failure. Something far more subtle. And far more insidious. Your brain shrinks. Not dramatically, not in a way you would notice in a mirror. But measurably. Clinically. The brain loses approximately 0.5% of its total volume every single year after 60. By the time most people reach 70, the brain has already lost meaningful mass in the regions responsible for memory formation, attention, and emotional recognition. Now here is where it gets important. Think of your brain like a city powered by an electrical grid. When that city is young and fully funded, every neighborhood has power. Every signal travels fast. Every connection fires when it is supposed to fire. The streets are clear. The traffic moves. But after 60, the maintenance budget gets cut. Not everywhere at once. In specific neighborhoods first. And the first neighborhood to feel it, the first area where the power starts flickering, is the hippocampus. The brain's memory filing system. The place where new information gets stamped, stored, and retrieved. When the hippocampus begins to lose volume, something very specific starts to happen. The brain's ability to form what neurologists call episodic memories, memories tied to specific moments, faces, names, and context, begins to slow down. Not stop. Slow down. Just enough that the retrieval process starts taking a fraction longer than it used to. And here is the critical piece that almost nobody explains clearly. That delay, that tiny hesitation before a name surfaces, that split second where the face is familiar but the word won't come, is not random forgetting. It is a measurable, documentable change in the speed of synaptic transmission between the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. The two regions of the brain that work together to pull up who someone is, why they matter, and what you were just doing. In healthy aging, that delay stays small. Manageable. Barely noticeable. But in early dementia, and this is the part one needs you to stay with me for, that delay stops being about speed. It becomes about accuracy. The brain does not just slow down the retrieval. It starts retrieving the wrong thing. It reaches into the filing system and pulls out the wrong file. A sister's name instead of a daughter's. A street from 30 years ago instead of the one you live on now. That is not tiredness. That is not stress. That is a biological signal. The brain is telling you that something in the filing system needs attention urgently right now. And the tragedy is this. Most seniors feel it happen. They pause. They notice it. And then they laugh it off and move on. What they do not know is what that signal actually means. And that is what I am going to show you next. Now I am going to tell you exactly what the worst dismissed sign looks like. Not a list of 10 vague symptoms. Not general advice you have heard before. The single most dangerous early warning signal of dementia, the one I see dismissed in my clinic more than any other. The one that Margaret laughed off in my office. The one that, if caught early, can genuinely change what the next 10 years of your life look like. Here it is. Substitution errors during familiar conversations. Let me tell you what that means in plain language, because the clinical term does not capture how ordinary it looks in real life. A substitution error is when the brain retrieves the wrong word, the wrong name, or the wrong detail, and the person does not catch it. They say their daughter's name when they mean their sister. They say Tuesday when they mean Thursday. They refer to a grandchild by a sibling's name. And then, this is the critical part, they move on. Without noticing. Without correcting themselves. Because the brain did not register the error at all. This is not the same as searching for a word and finding the wrong one. This is the brain generating an answer it believes is completely correct, and that answer is wrong. I had a patient named Harold. 71 years old. Retired engineer from Michigan. Meticulous man. Precise. His wife brought him in because she had noticed something small. Twice in 1 week, Harold had referred to their son Michael as David. David was Harold's brother. Died in 1987. Harold had no memory of doing it either time. When his wife gently corrected him, he was genuinely surprised. He was not searching for Michael's name. He was not tired or distracted. He believed, in that moment, with complete confidence, that he was saying the right name. His brain had filed the retrieval as correct. That distinction between a word you cannot find and a word your brain retrieves incorrectly without flagging it is the difference I need you to understand today. Here is what is happening neurologically when this occurs. The hippocampus, which we discussed earlier, is responsible not only for storing memories but for what neurologists call error monitoring, the process by which the brain crosschecks a retrieved memory against reality before it reaches conscious awareness. In early dementia, that crosschecking system begins to fail silently. The memory retrieval happens. The error monitoring does not. The result is confident, fluent, completely incorrect responses. And because the person delivers them with total certainty, neither they nor the people around them immediately recognize them as a warning sign. Harold's wife almost didn't mention it. She told me she thought she was being oversensitive. She was not. Within 14 months of that appointment, Harold received a formal diagnosis of early-stage Alzheimer's disease. But here is what I need you to hear. Because she came in early, because she mentioned that small, seemingly insignificant thing, Harold started an intervention protocol that has meaningfully slowed his progression. He still lives at home. He still knows his wife's name. He still knows his son Michael. Not every family gets that outcome. But here is what concerns me even more deeply than substitution errors alone. There is a second dismissed sign. One that is even easier to overlook. One that happens not in conversation, but in silence. And it may be happening to someone you love right now without anyone realizing what it means. Stay with me. I want to stay on Harold's story for just one more moment. Because there is something his wife told me during that first appointment that I have never forgotten. Something that did not make it into the clinical notes. Something that I think about every time I sit across from a new patient and their family. She said, the scariest part wasn't that he got the name wrong. The scariest part was how sure he was. That is the sentence I want you to hold on to. Because what she was describing, that absolute, unshakable confidence in a completely incorrect answer, is not a personality trait. It is not stubbornness. It is not Harold being difficult or dismissive. It is a neurological fingerprint. A very specific marker that tells a trained clinician something critical is changing inside the brain's self-monitoring architecture. And here is where I need to introduce something that will make your stomach drop slightly. Substitution errors, the ones we just covered, are the sign that families notice first. They are visible. They happen out loud, in conversation, in front of other people. Which means there is at least a chance, however small, that someone in the room will catch it. But the second dismissed sign? Nobody sees it. Not the family. Not the spouse sitting 3 feet away. Not the person experiencing it themselves. It happens in complete silence. Inside a task the senior has performed thousands of times. A task so automatic, so deeply habitual, that the brain runs it almost entirely on autopilot. And it is precisely because of that automation that the failure goes completely undetected. I am talking about what neurologists call procedural sequencing errors. And if substitution errors are the flickering light in the hallway, procedural sequencing errors are the circuit breaker tripping in a room nobody is currently standing in. Let me give you the clearest example I can. Think about making a cup of tea or coffee. You have done it 10,000 times. Your hands know the sequence before your mind consciously directs them. Kettle. Cup. Bag. Water. Wait. Now imagine completing that entire sequence, confidently, automatically, without hesitation, and sitting down to discover the cup is empty. The water went into the sink. Or the bag was never opened. Or the kettle was never switched on. And the person has absolutely no memory of anything going wrong. That is a procedural sequencing error. And unlike substitution errors, which at least produce an audible wrong answer, these leave no trace. No evidence. Just a cup that should have been full and isn't. I have had patients laugh this off as distraction. As multitasking. As simply having a lot on their mind. I need you to understand something with complete clarity. In a brain where the prefrontal sequencing network is functioning normally, even in a distracted, stressed, tired brain, this specific type of error does not happen with the signature I am about to describe to you. The pattern. The frequency. The complete absence of self-awareness in the moment it occurs. Those three things together are not distraction. They are a signal. And in the next section, I am going to break down exactly what is happening neurologically when this occurs, and the precise pattern you need to watch for. Because the difference between a one-off lapse and a genuine early warning sign comes down to 3 very specific features. Miss any one of them and you will dismiss it. Just like Harold's wife almost did. Stay with me. This next part is the one I most need you to hear. I know how heavy the last 2 sections may have felt. And I want to stop here for a moment before we go any further, because I need to say something important. Something I say to every patient who sits in my office after hearing information like this for the first time. Knowing is not the same as losing. I need you to hear that again. Knowing is not the same as losing. The families who come to me devastated, the ones who feel blindsided, the ones who ask why nobody told them sooner, they are not devastated because they found out. They are devastated because they found out too late to do anything meaningful about it. The knowledge itself was never the enemy. The silence was. You are not in that position right now. You are here. You are informed. And that changes everything about what is possible. Here is what the research actually tells us, and this is the part of my work that genuinely gives me hope every single day. The brain is not a fixed structure. Even after 60. Even after early warning signs have begun to appear. The science of neuroplasticity, the brain's documented capacity to build new pathways, strengthen existing connections, and compensate for areas of early decline, is one of the most exciting and most underreported stories in modern medicine. A landmark study published in the journal Neurology followed over 2,800 adults aged 65 and older across a 6-year period. The individuals who received early identification of cognitive warning signs and implemented targeted lifestyle and cognitive intervention showed a 32% slower rate of memory decline compared to those who received no early intervention. 32%. That is not a small number. In real terms, that is the difference between a senior who maintains their independence, their relationships, and their quality of life and one who does not. I have seen this in my own practice. I have watched patients who came to me with early warning signs, patients just like Harold, just like Margaret, go on to live rich, connected, fully engaged lives for years beyond what their initial scans suggested was probable. Not because we found a magic solution. Because we found it early enough to act. So here is what I want to do in the second part of this video. I am going to give you the 3 most powerful, clinically validated things you can do starting today, not next month, not after your next doctor's appointment, to actively protect your brain, slow the progression of early cognitive changes, and give yourself the best possible neurological odds for the decade ahead. These are not supplements. They are not expensive. They do not require a prescription. They require only that you know what they are and that you actually do them. Let us begin. Alternative 1, the Dual Task Daily Challenge. Meet Dorothy. 73 years old. Retired librarian from Tennessee. She came to me 18 months ago with early substitution errors, the same pattern we discussed with Harold. Same neurological fingerprint. Her hippocampal volume on imaging was measurably reduced for her age. We did not wait. We started immediately. The first thing I gave her was deceptively simple. Every single morning, while walking even just around her living room, Dorothy had to simultaneously recall something specific. A poem she memorized in school. The names of every student she taught in 1987. The full plot of a book she read decades ago. Walking alone activates the motor cortex. Recalling complex sequential memories activates the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex simultaneously. Combining both forces the brain's 2 most vulnerable networks to communicate with each other under mild cognitive load, which is precisely the condition that stimulates the growth of new synaptic connections. Research from Stanford's Memory Disorders Clinic confirms that dual-task cognitive training performed daily for 12 weeks produces measurable increases in hippocampal gray matter density in adults over 65. Dorothy still does it every morning. 18 months later, her sequencing errors have not progressed. Her last cognitive assessment actually showed improvement in episodic recall speed. She called my office to tell me. I keep that voicemail. Alternative 2, the name anchoring protocol. The substitution errors we discussed, retrieving the wrong name with complete confidence, respond directly to a specific daily practice that takes less than 4 minutes. Every evening, before sleep, write down 5 names. People you spoke to that day. People you thought about. Family members. Old friends. Next to each name, write one specific memory connected to that person. Not a general feeling. A specific moment. A specific detail. This practice directly exercises the hippocampus's error monitoring function, the exact system that fails silently in early dementia. You are essentially running a daily diagnostic on the precise neurological pathway that substitution errors attack. A 2021 study in neuropsychological rehabilitation found that structured episodic memory journaling performed nightly reduced substitution error frequency by 41% in adults with mild cognitive impairment over a 16-week period. 4 minutes. Every evening. Before sleep. That is a 41% reduction in the exact warning sign we are talking about today. Let me pull everything together for you right now. Simply and clearly. Because information without a concrete next step is just noise. And you did not sit through this entire video for noise. Here is your daily brain protection protocol. Starting today. Morning, 5 minutes. The moment you begin your first walk of the day, even if it is just from the bedroom to the kitchen, begin recalling something sequential and specific. A full memory. A complete list. Names, places, plotlines. Do not let your mind wander passively. Give it a task while your body moves. 5 minutes. Every morning. Non-negotiable. Evening, 4 minutes. Before you sleep, write 5 names. People from your day. People you thought about. Next to each name, one specific memory, not a feeling, a moment. A detail. A sensory image. This is your daily diagnostic. This is you actively maintaining the exact neurological pathway that early dementia attacks first. 4 minutes. Every evening. Before your eyes close. Immediately, one conversation. Think about the person in your life over the age of 55 whom you spend the most time with. A spouse. A sibling. A close friend. Have you noticed anything small recently? A name retrieved incorrectly with complete confidence? A familiar task completed wrong without awareness? A moment that felt slightly off but was laughed away? Do not dismiss that. Do not wait for it to happen again. Book an appointment. Mention it specifically. Use the language I gave you today, substitution errors, procedural sequencing errors, so your doctor knows exactly what to evaluate. Early is everything. It is the only advantage you have over this disease. And it is a significant one. Margaret came back to my office 6 months after that first appointment. She had started both protocols the week after her visit. She brought her daughter with her. And the daughter told me something I will carry for the rest of my career. Asterisk, she knows my name every single time now. She never gets it wrong. Asterisk. That is what early action looks like. That is what I want for you. Before you go, I need you to do 4 things. Not for me. For yourself. And for the people you love. First, like this video. Not as a gesture of politeness. As a signal. Every time you press that button, this video reaches another senior who is right now dismissing a warning sign they do not have the language to name yet. Your one click could be the reason a stranger's family gets the conversation they needed to have. That matters more than you know. Second, subscribe to this channel. Every week I release medically grounded content on brain health, cognitive protection, and the specific steps seniors can take to preserve their independence and their quality of life. This is not entertainment. This is clinical information, delivered clearly, honestly, and completely free. You deserve consistent access to it. Hit subscribe and make sure you never miss it. Third, comment the word protected below. Right now. Before you close this video. One word. Protected. It tells me you watched this to the end. It tells me you are taking this seriously. And it tells the people who come to this video after you that this community shows up, that we do not scroll past the things that actually matter. Fourth, share this video with one person. Not a group. Not a mass message. One specific person. The person who came to mind during this video. The spouse. The parent. The friend. The one whose small dismissed moment you have been quietly carrying. Send it to them directly. Today. You now have something most people your age do not have. You have the knowledge. You have the protocol. And you have the window, while it is still open, to act. Use it. I will see you in the next video.